You're watching BCTV. We're all about Brantford. You're watching BCTV, Brantford Government Television, a service of Brantford Community Television. This program is brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford.
Why don't we go ahead and get started? So with that, we'll call this meeting of the Brantford
Recording in progress.
We'll call this meeting of the Brantford Planning and Zoning Commission to order. It is Thursday, October 6, 2022, and I have 8:02 p.m. I'll introduce members of the commission and staff with us this evening. Commission member Joe Chadwick. Joe, are you here?
Joe Chadwick is present.
Thank you, Joe. Fred Russo. Fred, are you here?
Fred Russo, present.
Commission member Joe Vayuso. Joe, are you here?
Joe Vayuso here.
Commission member Marcy Pelusi. Marcy, are you here?
Marcy's here.
And I don't think we'll ask, is Massimo here? Do we see him? I don't see him.
I do not know.
And then our staff this evening is Harry Smith, our town planner, Harry Smith. Here, Harry, you're present.
Present.
And also our clerk recording secretary, Michelle Martin, is also here. And I believe we have our soon to be appointed zoning enforcement officer, Jane Ellis. I see that she is also here, another town staff member. So with that, is there a notice of public hearing to be read?
There is not. Our public hearing was open and continued from the last meeting in September, and we have no other public hearings that will be open tonight.
Okay, so Marcy, you're off the hook. You do not have to read a legal notice. With that, we'll commence with our public hearing items. And I'll go through the process of how that works, and then Harry will tell you about how you can participate. With the public hearing, we ask that the applicant go first. The applicant make its presentation with the applicant or staff members representing it. After that, we typically turn it over to a summary of the staff report, which Harry will be doing, and then open it up for questions and comments by commission members. At that point, we'll open it up to the public and ask for any public comments, and Harry will explain how you can participate in this Zoom hearing. After the public portion is done, we turn it back to the applicant to respond to any public comments. We may or may not close the public hearing. It's often certainly not unusual to continue the public hearing over another meeting if necessary. And also, I think we're supposed to, because some people may be listening by audio only, you may not see our faces, should identify ourselves before we speak. And my name again, I'm Chuck Anders, Chair. With that, Harry, can you review with us the process for participating in public hearings?
Sure. Thank you, Harry Smith, Town Planner. Only if your computer has a microphone for two-way communication, then during a public hearing, if you wish to speak, press raise hand after or under the reactions button in the lower, about mid portion of your screen. If you do not have a microphone, you'll need to call in on a phone in order to speak. You can type in comments in the chat feature, but we prefer if you do it orally, if possible. I will try and make every attempt to look at the chat feature, but we can't guarantee we're going to pick something up there all the time. Those joining through use of a computer and Zoom software should note that typing in your full name to view the meeting only and not speak is not required. You can use a pseudonym. There's a tutorial available on the agenda if you have a copy of that. That's available through the town's website if you're using a laptop. If you're joining by a mobile application, I believe you can click more in the lower right corner and select raise hand there. If you are have a camera and we can see your face and just want to wave frantically, if nothing else works, please do that. And there is a phone number on the agenda to call in by phone only. I think that's it.
Great, Chuck Anderson Chair. Thank you, Harry. With that, we'll commence with our first and only scheduled public hearing, and that is Westford Real Estate Management LLC, care of John Westford applicant. That's Jefferson Woods Community, care of Nally Silent owner, 11-404 Jefferson Woods. It's a special exception modification construction of additional parking. Is the applicant ready to proceed?
Good evening, Mr. Chair. Jim Preddy, Criscolo Engineering. I'm assisting Westford Management with this project here at Jefferson Woods. We did a map for them to mark the boundaries and also deal with this issue. I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully you could see that. So this is the property of Jefferson Woods. It's a little more than 28 acres. An entrance off of Jefferson Woods or Jefferson Road, and also an entrance off of Bergen Drive. And there's multiple buildings and parking areas kind of all over the site. What's in question is that some time ago, 17 spaces that were noted in the staff report were added here adjacent to this is a clubhouse for the property and the pool area, and there's tennis courts here. So there were some parking spaces added along here. Adjacent to, there's a mailbox cluster that's apparently always been there. And these spaces were added. They didn't, they were unaware that they needed to come in for a special exception when the spaces were paved. Where I could stop this for a second. I could show you some pictures. So this is the area to the right of the mailbox. The mailbox is down here by this car. So these are the spaces that were put in. A fence was also installed to block headlights. This is the mailbox. You can see this concrete here is aged. This mailbox setup was here. There's a small overhead light that was always part of the mailbox situation, and then there was this light that was added. You can see here with two LED fixtures with this tree behind it, and then this is the other 10 spaces to the left of the mailboxes, again with the new fence. So that's it. I guess we're kind of here as an after the fact permitting issue for these additional parking spaces. And I could go to either the map or the pictures, whatever you'd like to see, but that's the crux of the whole application at this point.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Mr. Preddy. Perhaps now we can ask Harry. Perhaps maybe you can review the staff report with us.
Sure, Harry Smith, Town Planner. I'll share my screen and just put the staff report up. All the commissioners should have a copy, hopefully. Primarily, it's exactly what Mr. Preddy explained it to be, landscaping and lighting, but we did go through the numbers in the staff report. There is an impervious surface ratio limit that they just squeak under here, but that's met.
Chuck Anderson, excuse me, Harry, your screen is showing, but this report is not. It's
yeah. Let me try that again.
Yeah.
How's that? You should be able to see a table with
yes.
bulk standards. Okay, great.
That's it.
So just as I was saying, impervious surface ratio, just under that. Landscaping, existing vegetation, there is a little tiny bit behind the mailbox. I think maybe a tree might be still on the property, a couple little pieces, but most of the existing vegetation behind the fence, between the fence and the adjoining single-family homes, I believe is off-site on the yards of the single-family homes. So that would not be able to be used for the side yard landscaping. Front yard's not applicable. The fencing can be and has been occasionally considered in lieu of landscaping. So that's possible to consider that. Talk about that a little bit more. I'm sure you'll be hearing from the neighbors shortly. I went down there today and took a look. One of the concerns I would imagine the neighbors have is that their homes are located a little down slope. So the lights, even though they're obscured by the fence, I don't know how much they're obscured because of the, you've got a gap in the bottom, and the way the angles all work with the elevation of the parking lot and the elevation of the windows and some of the adjoining homes. They may be getting some shots of light at night. Whether that can be mitigated with some additional landscaping, that's a possibility. The parking numbers, this is additional parking, so that's not really a concern. The lighting, was noted on the site plan that the fixtures are full cutoff, but we do need cut sheets that's required by the appendix. That's part of the lighting regulations. And we need to know the lumen limit. In this case, I would suggest possibly a small photometric layout. The existing new pole, it's existing, but it's new. I think it's about, the gym is about 15 feet high. It looked to me be about that.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think the one that was there for the mailboxes might, short, it might have been 12. So, could that be lowered? Possibly. There is a provision in the regulations here to control light trespass. All exterior light fixtures be mounted and installed aimed so that no direct light is visible from within the property boundaries of all surrounding properties. So whether things could be the house shield, different kind of fixture, head, there are possibilities here that could be looked at. It's basically lighting, possibly landscaping, I think, really what it boils down to. We don't have a recommendation at this point because I think I'd like to hear from the neighbors and see if there's anything else the applicant is willing or can do to sort of mitigate their concerns. And rather than put conditions or suggest conditions, I think this is already built. Makes more sense to sort of work it out, I think, through the public hearing process, as long as we have the time. That's all I got.
Great. Chuck Anderson, Chair. Thank you, Harry. Questions, comments from commission members before we open up to the public? Hearing none, then let's open up for public comment. Do members of the public wish to comment?
I saw Mr. Riley first, so I've recognized him. He should be, there you go.
All right. Well, good evening, gentlemen and ladies and gentlemen. And so I'm here representing Mr. William Loopy. I'm not sure if he has joined us. We're not together. He intended to, if he's not. Yes, I agree that the issues do involve landscaping and then the lighting conditions. And as far as the landscaping, now I was looking at what I think are the right regulations at 7. Is that correct? Special exception section 7, where they
no, really it's section 6.3, Harry Smith, Town Planner.
Yeah. All right. Well, I did see that the landscaping I saw on the screen was showing a 10-foot area for landscaping. So I did prepare some photographs that I personally delivered today and emailed also.
Okay.
Over to Mr. Smith. And I can show them so that the panel can see what the actual situation is.
Would you like to share your screen?
I would. I'm not exactly sure how to do it.
I can make you a co-host so you can do it. Let me make sure I've clicked all the buttons. Yeah, your co-host should be able to share your screen now, Mr. Riley.
All right, I see the button. All right, let's see that I want to share.
And it will give you, if you have several windows open, it'll give you a choice of windows.
Right, I see your face. Should I use that one?
No, I would, if you clicked it, you should see whatever window you have up. So if you don't have your document open in a window, you won't see it as a choice. So you'd have to open that document. I can put them up. I think I've got them here if you want me to.
Okay, I did label them. So why don't we do
Okay.
that?
I'll do
Why
that.
don't we do that? Okay. So I'll close my select a window.
Yeah.
Right, since I won't be doing that.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. And I did it A, B, C, D, E.
Yeah. So is this the first one, I believe?
It is. This is looking
Okay.
easterly from Mr. Lupi's property. Yeah, he's an adjacent landowner. What we see here that stands out is this fence does not go down to the bottom, down to the ground. And it should. One of the purposes is to block allow him not to see what's going on the other side, where the cars come up and the headlights and people's feet walking by, and trash accumulates and blows under there, and it ends up in this area where the vegetation is. So that's all I have to say about that. He doesn't have a problem with the height of the fence or anything like that. Now, the next one is showing a northerly view. And you can see that there are downed trees on the lower left-hand corner. There's a stump. There's a lot of branches, a lot of just growth. No effort whatsoever to do any landscaping. So Mr. Lupi was actually clearing his side of the line, and that's where he recognized what had happened, and he intends to complete his side, and what he's going to be confronted with when he's done is this mess that exists. Now, as I said, I was looking at Section 7 special exceptions, which it's from 2019. Perhaps it was changed, and that got into the area of the discussion of a green belt. Is there a requirement for a green belt still with a condominium?
I'm unclear what section you're talking about, and I can look at that while you keep going, but there's several
Multifamily
subsections.
residential development.
All right. This goes back quite a while, a Harry Smithtown planner, so I think this probably was approved under a whole different set of regulations, because this whole document was recodified in about 2011.
All right.
I think
But wouldn't-
Jefferson Woods goes back at least the 80s, maybe the 1970s. So I don't know what applied there then.
Well, my thought is that this is an improvement, and that the newer regulations would apply. They've installed something that's brand new. It's a parking area, and there are rules pertaining to that involving fencing and so
Yeah.
forth.
Well, there are, this is, I think the commission can take that into account, whether we can talk about that and, as collectively as a group, the commission can talk about that, whether they believe these regulations would have to be applied or not. I can't really say at this moment.
All right, well, to that end, they do require a 15-foot green belt.
Yep.
And there's no green belt here, obviously, and it requires 50% evergreens, and there's no evergreens on their side of the line. So you know, they've just left a mess there, and it shouldn't be something that's there. I think the purpose of the greenbelt is a good one, because they're improving property, and the adjacent neighbors now see something different, and so you want to beautify the surrounding area. And well, it's just pretty clear from this photo that they've done the exact opposite. So we could move on to the next photo. And this is just farther down, showing that, you know, it's a continuation. Mr. Loopy is over on the left-hand side. He's got a tape measure because there's remaining stakes from an apparent survey, or at least an attempt to find out where the property line was. So we can move on to the next one.
Okay.
And this is going to be the southerly view. So this is the fence heading to the south. So it's the opposite way from where we were looking, just showing that the situation remains the same there. Both sides up and down the fence are exactly the same. We could go to the next one. This is the southerly view too. All right, so I'm sorry, I think northerly. Yeah, so we saw two northerlies. The last one we looked at was a southerly view with the fencing on the left, and this is the fencing on the left. Also, there's a stake, and there's all of the growth again.
You've got mail.
And then finally, we go well, actually, there's two more. The next photo is showing a large gap in this fence, and again, these trees right now are blocking the view, but you know, leaves are going to fall, and it won't be doing that for much longer. If we could go to the next one. This, of course, is an evening shot, and it's taken from Mr. Loopy's property, viewing to the northeasterly side, which is, I think that's probably where the gap is, but the gap in the fence. And that light is shining onto his property, and you know, the rules on lighting, of course, with the light trespass, it's not supposed to occur. Could be a matter of height, could be a matter of type of shield that is being used. So we'd like to have that corrected. So basically, you know, just to sum it up, they, you know, if this special exception is in section 7, requiring the buffer area applies, you know, whether, you know, the timing of the original construction or of the improvement would govern, you know, I would think that, you know, if you're putting in a fence in this area, then you should recognize the buffer area, and they should provide the green belt. And it says that it shall provide a green belt. And then it says in section 7.1C.2, they refer to it as the required green belt. And they require that to be 5 feet, and the fence would only have to be 4 feet. So they're talking about two different things. And it says that there shall, so there's no exception listed. So we think that the area should be beautified, and this area with all the debris, the natural debris, cleared. And that's it. If Mr. Loopy is here, perhaps he might want to say a word or two.
I see a gentleman, and I think the box is labeled Nancy. There might be another person in the household. Is that Mr. Lupi's?
Yes, it is.
Okay. You should be able to unmute now, Mr. Lupi. Okay.
Hey, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, so I heard everything that Pete said. We're in full agreement. Everything that he said, we had talked about previously. And our concerns are the gap in the fence. It's not continuous. And the gentleman from Criscola Engineering pointed out before, that gap happens where the mailboxes are. And I'm assuming they left that gap there because they didn't have to put anything there because the mailboxes were there, and that extended out to the street, the road at Jefferson Woods. So that was one. Secondly, the gap at the bottom of the fence, obviously we would, for a privacy issue, we would like to see the fence extend totally to the ground. And thirdly, Pete extensively, read about what he called the green belt, or the space that's supposed to be, from how I understand it, between the parking lots that they put there to the property line. And in some places it's as little as 8 or 9 feet. I'm really not sure how much space is supposed to be there and how extensively they're supposed to beautify that, but we're not happy with the way it looks, and we're here to express our views about that, of how it's supposed to be.
Plus the fence was not even put up until we said something.
Right, and lastly, that fence was not installed until we brought it to the attention of planning and zoning that those parking lots were there to begin with. Those parking lots were done without any kind of approval or knowledge of anyone, and it only came to being because I started going back there and doing some clearing and discovered that these parking lots were there, and I started asking questions about how close they were to the property line, and this is how this all came about. There's a lot of debris back there.
We lost some trees.
Yeah, we lost some trees, but mostly it's ugly, to be honest with you. And it all started because I started clearing out my side of the property, and come to find out that these parking lots were put in, and I started asking questions, and that was 15, 16 months ago, 17 months ago. It's quite a while ago. There's another gentleman here at the meeting who is my neighbor. He lives next to me. I think you can see him as Sal Milano. And he asked some questions also about the lighting issues because they affect him a little more than they affect me, but I'm sure he's going to want to speak to that effect. So those are our concerns. Hopefully they'll be looked at and we can resolve it to everyone's liking. And I thank you for the time that you've given me to speak. Thank you.
Chuck Anderson here. Thank you, Mr. Lupi. It looks like we have Mr. Milano would also like to speak. Is that correct?
Yes, Harry Smith, Town Planner. You should be able to unmute yourself, Mr. Milano.
You hear me?
Yes, we can.
How are you tonight? So I have two problems: that light, and I know they sell light bulbs that have fins in them to block light. I have to be an electrician myself, so I don't think it's a big deal to change out the bulb and put a bulb in that has a fin in it that can block the light. It does hit our house. It's a big block. It's just a, you don't want to see it, actually. I don't want to see that much light. It lights up the whole backyard. And as far as the fence goes, fence is nice, but as much as you may say it blocks the headlights, well, that's when the car's in place. But for the car to get in place and he's pulling in, we're seeing the headlights hit the house or the windows. And, you know, it's in the middle of the night. You think somebody may be, you know, pointing a flashlight at your back window. You got to worry about that. So I want that fence to go, the wooden fence, the panels to go all the way to the ground. And I think that's suffice. So I only have the 7, you know, the 7 spaces are there, so it's not as bad as the 10, but we're seeing it all the time that when a car pulls in, it's hitting 2 bedrooms, and it could be scary at sometimes when it's in the middle of the night. So that should be it.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Mr. Milano. Harry, it looks like we got a couple more.
Yeah, I think I saw, and I don't know if he came first, John F. So I'll ask him to unmute.
Hi, I'm John Fishman. I'm from Westford. I'm the property manager for Jefferson Woods. I came onto the project very late in the game in the May or June area. So I came in after the fences were ordered, and I can tell you what we have done and what the reason for the design was, if that helps. That area is on a pretty serious slope, and it really wasn't the area of the land really isn't conducive to having the fence all the way to the ground. We also have snow. The thought was, once again, before I came on board, but the thought was the snow could be, you know, when it snows, the plows wouldn't destroy the fence, and snow could go underneath the fence. And we took a lot of time to measure different heights of vehicles for the headlights so they wouldn't go under. And if you look at those pictures, the term that the fencing company used was stepping because of the slope. So that's why it's not even at the top, because of the slope of the land. And we measured 4 different heights of vehicles to try to eliminate the lights from going underneath the fence. So that's a little bit of the background behind the scenes that we took at the late stages when I got involved in May and June. So.
Okay, Chuck Anderson, thank you. It sounds though that the light is still getting through, notwithstanding your measurements. That's what I'm hearing. There was one other public comment. It looks like.
I want to go to Anna, I think, and then back to Mr. Lupi. I think she was up first. So I'm going to ask her to unmute herself. Should be able to do that now.
Hi. So I want to just reiterate, yes, the house behind the parking spots, my brother and I own that house. And on occasion, I do stay at that house. And I've been in the bedroom where that huge light shines right down into that bedroom. But would also like to comment that during the summertime, there's people congregating around that area. And I don't know if we can stop, obviously, people from talking. But, you know, this is during a night, 2 o'clock in the morning, 1 o'clock in the morning, people are talking and, you know, hearing their conversations. I'm not so sure that those parking spaces are in the correct spot. I know at this point it's too late, but I just want to comment about the noise level as well. And that's, you know, that's all I have to add to Bill and my brother.
Chuck Anderson, thank you. Harry, do we want to hear additional
I think
comments?
Mr. Lupi looked like he wanted to add some comments, so I'll unmute him as well again.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I heard both Anna and Mr. Fishman. Mr. Fishman especially about the fence. And my issue with his statement is that, you know, this procedure should have taken place 2 years ago before these parking lots were put in. So the fact that the fences that they installed don't go to the ground because of snow removal or whatever, to be honest with you, that's not my issue. That's not my problem. That's their problem. I think if these issues were discussed prior to these parking lots being put in, we might be having a different conversation. The fact of the matter is that these parking lots were put in without proper procedure being gone through the town to put these parking lots in. So this is all after the fact. And my point is that if I didn't start cleaning out my yard on my property, none of this would have come to light. So the fact that
Not the light.
the fences were put in after I went to the town and kind of started looking into it. These parking lots might not have ever been put in, is my point. But they're done, and now we're kind of stuck with them, or maybe not. I don't know. But I mean, that's kind of the fact that prior to them being there, everything was fine. I could have cleaned out my property, and it wouldn't have been pretty over there. It would have been okay. It would have been acceptable because there would have been space between the property line and where the road was. Well, now that space has been negated. That space is not there anymore because the parking lots. So the fact that there's an issue with snow removal or whatever, I don't see it as being my issue or our problem.
Light too.
And I'm sorry, again, I'll go back to Anna and Sal with the light issue, which should be a very simple fix.
Which they never
That
did.
the light is blaring into our yards at night and into the houses and into the windows, and that to me is it's a very simple issue to fix. So
And we've been living with that for
and
almost
I've
2 years.
about a year and a half I've been talking about that. So that's it. Thank you.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Mr. Lupi. Other members of the public wish to comment at this time?
I don't see anybody else with a raised hand or waving or anything, so I'm looking at the chat quickly. I don't see anything there either, so I think that's it for now.
Okay, well, it sounds like a number of issues have been identified, mainly relating to there's a gap in the fence where light gets through. There's the bottom of the fence issue where light also gets through. And there's the landscaping issue, the mess that's back there, and then requirements in our regulations, either in the section 7 quoted by I believe Mr. Lupi, or in the landscaping sections, which are in section 63, which also requires some type of landscaping by a landscape architect, which I don't think has been done. So I guess the question would be, do we want to continue this? Do we want to allow Mr. Criscola maybe to consult with them? About additional, those are the issues that come up, to see if there's some revisions or consensus, and then you can come back? Or do we want to continue this and see if we can try to resolve this tonight?
Mr. Chair, Jim Preddy, I think that some of these things are probably resolvable. But I do need a chance to talk to John from Westford to see what, they're willing to do, how far they're willing to go. And then come back with the adjustments and see if the neighbors are acceptable to that, I guess, at this point.
I think that would be preferable than trying to work something out this evening, because I don't know if we can. And like you say, you don't know what your client's willing to agree to. So that makes great sense to me. I think the neighbors have made some good points. The landscape buffer is interesting because, it does require 15 feet. And I don't even know, maybe you've intruded already into the 15 feet. Maybe there's some exceptions to that or so forth. But I think these other things are already in the regulations. So that's what we're going by. So it'd be great, obviously, if you can, speak with your client and then try to speak possibly with the neighbors and just, review it with them before coming back with us. So we, if you can do that.
Okay.
Does everyone agree with that? Members of the commission?
Fred Russo, I agree.
Bayuso agrees.
Okay.
And Chadwick also agrees, but I've got a quick question.
Sure.
Many times people will sort of let this happen where on the belief that it's easier to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission. And what enforcement do we have? Just there are a number of things that make me feel somewhat unkindly disposed to this application. And I don't want to be like, just an arbitrary meanie about it, but somebody goes ahead and does work and it's like, well, what the hell? We're just going to come back and, if they catch us, we'll do something about it. And we'll just plead, oh, well, we didn't think about it at the time. What enforcement do we actually have as a planning and zoning commission?
Well,
there's a number of instances where this has happened before.
Right. I can give you my quick understanding, Chuck Anders Chair. Well, we have a range of tools. One, we could deny the application requiring them to tear up the parking lot, because it was, perhaps because it infringed on the 15-foot buffer or something. And that's something we could do. I mean, we could deny the application. We could issue a cease and desist order, require them to, tear it out. I don't know if it couldn't be remedied. Obviously, the whole reason you want them to apply. So I'm not going to condemn them for applying. We want them to do it. I wish they'd done it earlier, which they'd done it first. The other thing we could do is issue fines. I mean, there is a fine. We have a fine ordinance, and we could do that. And I, those are options are out there. But I get it. I get the, hey, let's see if I can get away with it and I'll ask forgiveness. That I agree with that, Joe. On the other hand, many things are inadvertent, and I think the goal is to get compliance. So I give them some points for. It sounds like it's been a long time. I don't know why it's taken 2 years or whatever it said, but I'm glad it's being done, and this is the occasion, frankly, where I think we want to get it solved. And that's, so if this can continue to go forward, that's why we want to continue, allow them to come up with stuff. So anyway, those are my reactions.
Yeah.
Harry.
Harry Smith, town planner. Just to give you, Joe, a little background. I believe this started as a complaint from the neighbors. We reached out to Jefferson Woods. Frankly, it was very difficult finding someone. And again, based on what the testimony presented tonight, maybe there was a shift in management or whatever. So eventually we did get in contact with them and, suggested applying for approval and suggested addressing some of the complaints as we understood them. This was the attempt by the management group to do that. I mean, it took quite a while, it's true, to get the application in the door. I'm not going to speak to why, maybe just people involved or whatever. We did keep pushing and pushing and pushing and said, look, we need the application. Otherwise, we're going to proceed with enforcement. And we finally did get it, and we're finally here. Yeah, it's been a really protracted process. There is a person, I think Anna's, looks like she wanted to comment again, but just to note that.
Yeah, so just briefly, I know there was a comment made, saying that, well, we'll go back to the owner and see if they're willing to make the modifications that we're asking for. But again, what do I mean willing? They did something that they were not supposed to do. So if they say no, that's not right. They did something they weren't supposed to do, and now we're affected by this. So I willing is not the right thing to say. It's we're gonna go back to the owner and we will resolve this. If they're not willing to do what we're asking, then there's going to be issues. So I just want to make that comment.
Right. Thank you, Chuck Anderson. Harry?
Just before maybe we, table this or continue it to the next meeting, in terms of the lights, I mean, maybe you can find 2 fixtures that could be mounted at a 15-foot height that are not going to be visible. But you might want to look at 2 pole lights, spread out the light that way rather than one in the middle, much lower, 10 feet, 12 feet with house shields, and really make sure they're not going to be visible. So that might require a little extra money, trench out the electrical connections, and the poles, but I'm open to what could be proposed, but just wanted to throw that out there.
Chuck Anderson, thank you, Harry. Marcy, I think I didn't, did you have some comments? I think you were.
I can certainly give you a whole number of them from the designer's perspective.
Sure. I mean, if you want to, put them on the record.
I could I'll just offer some sort of free advice for food for thought. I do understand that fences are often used as a solution. And I think in this case, it is a good one. I do understand the need to remove snow in large complexes like this, but if there's a light trespass issue resulting because it's not being effectively blocked underneath, it's kind of like, pushing the leaves on your neighbor's property. I mean, complexes of this size often have to cart their snow off in major storms, and when I think of snow, I couldn't help but notice the erosion behind the fence and think, what's the likelihood, I think we just need to enforce that it's going to be maintained to the property line because it's easily forgotten behind the fence. I think that you could find some evergreen trees that could easily help screen the light pole. I question why there's 2 light poles in such close proximity. Why did they go that route? Why was the 12-footer not functioning to effectively for its intent? And I guess the last thing is I think this would be a good place to, look at some native types of species because it is on the edge of the both properties, and you could, introduce some pollinators and some things like that. There's a lot of opportunity to do a nice solution that could, I think, satisfy both parties and make the area nice. But, when these complexes get designed and were approved, I'm not sure which street it is behind, and I'm not sure of the elevation and all that, but, it's easy to just look at the relationship of what's going on in the complex and to not think about the neighbors. And then, the management comes in and the people living there don't understand. I get that they don't understand the rules that govern. And if the property manager isn't, paying attention, or if there's not a good HOA group that's really paying attention to the care facility, I can certainly see how things like this would get dropped. So I don't think it was necessarily done with malintent. I think, the complex is trying to take care of their complex. There's obviously was a need for more parking near the pool. If, what was the best solution? I don't know. I don't know if there was room to, put it on the other side of the driveway or not. But, I think there's certainly things we can do to make the situation better. And I would, I'm certain that Chris Gola will work to do that. So I have every confidence in what it'll come back with. So, but those were just what are my thoughts?
Chuck Engineer, thank you, Marcy. Okay, so everyone's in favor. We are going to continue this. So you'll have a chance to come back and make additional comments, but hopefully you're going to be contacted by a representative you'll have a chance to review what they come up with and comment on it before we do the hearing. I do see some raised hands, but I know we're close to continuous, but is there something that you guys want to add to make something quick before we continue this?
I see a nod from Mr. Milano, so I think I think might have had his hand up first, so let's go with that.
Sure. Let's go with that.
All right.
Mr. Milano.
All right. So as far as pushing the snow under that opening, so where's the snow going to go? It's going to melt and it's going to go on our land on top of it, right? The hill is right there that goes down to our property. So I don't want the snow being pushed. And first of all, the plow is going to push the snow to the curb. The fence is what, another 2 feet past that? He's not going to lift his blade up to push the snow on that little 2 feet apart, or it's not going to work with pushing the snow into the fence or under the fence, because under the fence is really our property. That's all.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Milano. Okay. Is there anyone else want to something quickly? It looks like Nancy was raising her hand quickly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm Nancy Loopy, Bill Loopy's wife, the homeowner who initiated this whole thing. I just, it's very upsetting to listen to this because I know that we've been trying, not me, my husband, with the help of Dave Perkins, with the help of Pete Riley. He has been spending so much time just trying to get somebody to listen. So we appreciate the fact that you guys are listening. But the whole thing is they did something they weren't supposed to do, and we're suffering for it. The fence looks awful. When I came home that day and saw what they did to rectify the situation, I almost had a heart attack because it looks worse now than it did before. So, we've been living with this light glaring in our homes for the last 2 years that nobody wanted to hear anything about. Something's got to get done, and we're getting people to finally listen. So hopefully this will be rectified with something that we, Anna, myself, my husband, are happy with, not with what you guys are willing to do. I agree with Anna totally. Willing, there is no willing here. It's our homes that have been affected. So that's my say here. I wanted to just put that out. And if you're going to put trees along the line, we want them along the property line. We don't want to look at this parking lot and these lights coming in every night. That's not what we bought our homes for. We don't live at the condo. Why do we have to look at this? And as Anna pointed out, I didn't even get into this conversation about people hanging out in the noise level. We understand that there's condos, but they're throwing all their garbage over on our side, and we have to clean it up. So I think they need to do something that's going to make us happy, not with what they're willing to do.
Chuck Anderson, thank you. I think that's it. I know I see a raised hand from Anna, but I think that was from before, correct?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see it. So
that's gone away now. So okay.
Okay. So then we're going to continue this to, should we continue to our next meeting or the following meeting?
Well, maybe, Mr. Preddy, is it reasonable for you to possibly have anything and check in with the neighbors by the next meeting? Or are we talking about the meeting after that? On 3rd November.
I don't know. Because I'm dealing with multiple parties here, so I don't know if 2 weeks is enough time. But
yeah.
We will certainly try to head that way. But I understand for your scheduling, you kind of need a better answer than that.
Maybe it makes sense for the 3rd rather than going here and just have, not be able to go very far.
I agree. I was hesitant at saying that because this has been dragging on already. So.
Well, I know, but
that's probably the realistic number, yes.
Okay. So we'll continue this to our November 3rd meeting. And I mean, that makes sense, but that means you really got to do it. I mean, and I think you'll need a landscape architect too. That's what I would say for landscape.
Yeah, I think some of these issues are probably not as complicated to solve as they sound, and some of them are. So we'll get together with the Westford management and come up with a better solution and reach out to the neighbors before the next meeting.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, so then item number 1, we're continuing to our meeting on November 3rd, also a remote meeting like this one at starting at 7 o'clock probably. So that, I think that is, so thank you all. I think that's our only public hearing. And we're continuing that one. That brings us to our next item, which are our minutes. And I think you sent out minutes from our September 15th, 2022 meeting. Harry, and those got sent out. And I don't know if commission members had a chance to review those. If so, if someone want to make a motion with respect to the Thursday, September 15th, 2022 minutes.
Chadwick will make that motion.
Joe Chadwick makes a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Fred Russo seconds it.
Second by Fred. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Vayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And the chair is also in favor. Harry, one other question. Wasn't there a set of minutes somewhere that we never approved? And
Harry Smith, Town Planner, you're quite correct. It's from July, and there's a lot been going on in the office, and between Michelle and I, we haven't quite got the fix in. We needed to go back and listen to the recording, frankly, and add some content and bring it before the commission. So we'll try and do that for the next meeting.
Okay, great. Thanks. Yep. Correspondence. Anything, Harry?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, we got kind of an odd document from directly from the Regional Planning Commission instead of the town of East Haven. It looks like they're doing sort of a semi-major overhaul, or at least annotation and changes to several sections of their regulations. All I really received was a summary. It's in front of the Regional Planning Commission, and I don't know whether the new person there just sent it out to all the planners of the budding municipalities. I've not experienced that as part of the process before, but I can get more information if anybody's interested, but I don't have the details to really explain it.
Okay, but we didn't receive anything from East Haven, just from the regional.
No, it was just from the Regional Planning Commission. So it looked like they got their referral and they just sent it out, but they didn't send the complete package. So,
okay, there is a new planner there. So
yes.
Okay. Okay. So if anyone's interested to see what East Haven is doing with their zoning regulations,
there's something out going on, and let me know, and I'll track it down if you're interested. How's that?
Yeah, and actually, I'm our rep to the Regional Planning Commission, so I'll be finding out more. So at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay. Any other correspondence?
No. Thank you.
Okay, going to old business. Item number 1. Yeah, Brian Doherty, 626 Leeds Island Road, and this is one where we have a public hearing. We opened it and continued to our next meeting on October 20th. So we're not doing anything with that one. Is that correct, Harry?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, that is correct.
Okay. Bring it to item number 2. That's KOP Brantford, 1025-1091 West Main Street. This is site plan modification, parking lot lighting. And this is something, I understand, something minor. It may be able to be approved as a minor modification by staff, but where are we with that, Harry?
We just got a revised plan in a couple of days ago. Frankly, I've not been able to look at it. I am hoping it meets the requirements of the regulations, and I can go ahead and approve it as a minor, but okay. I can only approve minors. I can't deny minors. So that's one reason it's in front of you, because it was incomplete when it came in. And frankly, Evan has been going back and forth with him. I think he's got something that has got everything in it, but I need to take a good look at it. And I just suggest you table this to the 20th just to keep it, on the agenda. And if I feel like I can approve it and everyone's, we'll just take it off the agenda, it'll be approved before the 20th.
Okay. Okay, so we'll table item number 2 and maybe it'll disappear. Number 3 is also something for our October 20th meeting, special exception coastal site plan at 125 Thimble Islands Road. That's in connection with, I believe, the subdivision that we approved earlier across from the Legacy Theater, and some grading application, and that's on for the 20th. 20th is going to be we'll have a decent amount of stuff going on. I'm glad we continued the last one till the November meeting then. So 3 is nothing going on with that one. 4 also is on the 20th. That's a Sullivan Farm LLC special exception for research laboratory general office and section 6.8. That's sounds like a fairly significant application. And that's on for our next meeting. And then item number 5, that's HV Retail Development LLC, 1151 West Main Street site plan modification. This is the Aldi's and Chase Bank site. What's going on with that, Harry?
Harry Smith, Town Planner, that has actually been withdrawn. It's a timing issue. I really don't want to take up your time with it. It's a minor, and I just haven't gotten the documents I need, and there's prior property owners and disputes and payment issues, and I hopefully will get the plans that I know do exist soon enough, but they'll need to reapply. So this is the second shot through. This has been going on for months, frankly, and it's just cleaning up, hopefully, a loose end in the project.
Okay, so that one's been withdrawn. So
yeah, so obviously it's gone for now.
Okay, great. That brings us to new business. The first item is items actually number 1 and 2 are the Metro 375 LLC PDD master plan modification and site plan modification, and that's scheduled for a public hearing at our next meeting. And that's essentially they want to take out one of the affordables. Is that not my understanding?
They've reworked the math. Without getting too far into it, I think it was broken up in 2 pieces, the original development, and then they added that one building on the next property. And we figured 5% on each because that's the way they submitted it. That's the way they applied for it. And when they added the 2 together and did the math, they figured they could still meet the 5% with 1 fewer unit. So,
okay. So that's what that's about.
Yeah, that's what that's about.
Okay, and that's a public hearing coming up on the October 20th meeting. That's items number 1 and 2, I think, right? So item number 3 is special exception for an accessory apartment, and we'll need to schedule that for public hearing when you have a chance to review that. Is that correct? Or?
That's right. We do have the standing motion, and so if the commission's comfortable, I'll probably look at the 3rd. I just haven't really opened the application up yet to make sure it's in okay shape.
Yeah, the next meeting is getting kind of full, so.
Yeah, it wouldn't be on the next meeting. It's too late for that, yeah.
Great. And then item number 4, Matthew and Stephanie Milano, 125 Thimble Islands Road. This is the 2-lot subdivision coastal site plan we approved, and this is looks like a routine request for a 90-day time extension to the time to file the Mylar. Anything that we need?
No, the Harry Smith Town Planner, the only wrinkle there is you may recall it was a conservation easement offered as part of this to satisfy the open space requirement, and an offer to actually dedicate some land to the town to supplement the land at the end of the trolley trail where there's a ball field, rec field, and there's the parking lot for the trolley trail. So those 2 offers need to go through representative town meeting, and we just got the final proposals for the legal documents through our town council. So now they need to go through the process there, and that'll take a little bit of time. They just ran out of time. So
okay. So we need to approve a motion for a 90-day time extension to file the Mylar?
Yep. To grant them the 90-day extension. Yeah, right.
Does someone want to make that motion to grant the 90-day extension to file the Mylar?
Fred Russo, I'll make that motion. So
motion by Fred. Is there a second?
Chadwick seconds.
Joe Chadwick seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Joe Chadwick?
Chadwick in favor.
Fred Russo?
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso?
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy?
Marcy's in favor.
And Chair is also in favor. So that's it, I believe, for new business. And then we have other business. What's going on? New zoning enforcement officer, Jane
We do.
Ellis, who may be listening, I believe, or
We do. So I'd like to introduce you all to Jane Ellis, who up until fairly recently, a few weeks ago, I think we're at 2.5 now, was working in the office as sort of the front person near the counter for the building engineering departments. Has been helping out with zoning, as we all do help each other out, and got interested in the field and applied for the vacant position when Dylan Willett left for other pastures. I won't say greener pastures, say other pastures. So with that, I'll just turn over to Jane and let her give her a little bit of information about her background, maybe. Jane, are you there? Should be unmuted, but she may have possibly have issues with, she might have audio issues. Let me see.
yeah, that was in the chat.
Something about that. So maybe you could do this, another time. I thought something maybe she had called in, but she does have a background in, I believe, with mechanical equipment and working for a very fast-paced business environment, and has really jumped right in and started to learn the ropes. And we have, fortunately, people here to help her out, and I think it's going to work out pretty well. But at this point, she has not been officially designated by the commission as a zoning enforcement officer. Our current part-time sort of point person on zoning enforcement is here Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday mornings. He's very experienced. He was the former zoning enforcement officer in Stratford for, I think, about 30 years. He lives in Short Beach, knows the town, but he's just not here that much. He's getting a lot done at the time he is here, but technically Evan is also authorized as zoning officer by the commission, and I'm sort of the third string quarterback, just in case nobody else is available to sign. But none of either Evan or I are familiar with the computerized permitting software we use, really, because we don't use it from the planning and zoning, but the zoning enforcement officer needs to use it when building permit applications come in. That's how zoning permits are issued and the building permits are authorized from the zoning end. So I'm hoping you may consider authorizing Jane to act as a zoning enforcement officer. I mean, basically she's, acting with training wheels. We're, working with her closely, and, she's aware she's got a lot to learn, and we'll be taking the Casio course and that kind of thing in the upcoming year. But I think I'm comfortable with that, with the, surrounding people that are here to help her out, and that to give her the ability to legally check off the box, frankly, in the computerized software if, John Rosatsky's not here, and do some other things as needed, under supervision. So.
Great, Chuck in his chair. Thank you, Harry. Any questions from anyone? And then, if not, does someone make a motion to authorize Jane Ellis to authorize as a zoning enforcement officer for the Planning and Zoning Commission?
Fred Russell, I'll make that motion.
Motion by Fred. Is there a second?
Chadwick will second.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Is any further discussion? If not, Joe Chadwick, you pick.
Chadwick in favor.
Fred.
Fred Russell in favor.
Joe Bayuso.
Bayuso in favor.
Marcy.
Marcy's in favor.
And Chair is also in favor. Item number 2, Sunrise Cove Camp PDD replacement by residential R2 zoning. You want to summarize what that's about, Harry?
Harry Smith, Town Planner. Let me share my screen. I will frame the issue, I guess. You may recall back when Sunrise Cove Camp came in, they were several of those properties are trying to winterize and expand their units on the property. There was a question raised about whether the planned development district still applies here. That was the zoning district on which it was created, I believe, or it was applied after. It's an old camp, but when they talked about winterization and things like that, they created PDD. And I think it was a 10-year life or something to go through and update the cottages, and that expired. So the question was, what's the status of that? we did look into it, went back to the old zoning map that was adopted 2015 and looked through that process. That process, as opposed to what we just did a few weeks ago when we sort of ran the map by you and said, here's a compilation of everything that's been changed since 2015. In 2015, the commission actually had a public hearing, made some changes to the map in the process of developing this computerized map. And so that the result was anything on that map, that's the zoning. If it changed, erased the PDD and made it R2 zoning, that was a zoning map amendment right there as part of that action. So that map, by virtue of being adopted by the commission, wiped out the PDD, put the R2 zoning back in place. I don't want to characterize the communication from our town council, but we did send it around to you. I don't know if possibly Chuck, you had a chance to read it. There is a paragraph here and it seems pretty clear, and I'll just let everyone read it. But since this is a legal advice, it's basically looking for some input from the commission. Do you agree with it? And do you consider the PDD erased and the R2 zoning in place? Is the question. So
great. Does everyone get that? In other words, at one point we had adopted a PDD for the Sunrise Cove, and you remember that. So, and that got put on the map. So at one point there was a PDD on the map instead of R2. It was a PDD. Now we never specifically amended the map to delete the PDD, but we did amend the map in 2015, and we did a notice of public hearing and everything else and said, hey, this is our new map, and it did delete the PDD. Right. So the question was, did we really delete the PDD, even though we didn't advertise it that we were changing the PDD, but we did say, this is our new map, and this is what we're adopting. We did the notice of public hearing and adopted that map without the PDD. And so because Harry wants to be, is Mr. Meticulous and make sure that we're not screwing up anything, that the question was, well, was that good enough? Was that good enough? And so he gave it to the town attorney. Town attorney said, yes, that is good enough. That was a separate adoption of a map with a proper procedure that didn't have on it. So that's good. You don't need to do anything else. And that makes sense to me because I think we went through the process of a map amendment, and then the new map that we showed as part of that process did not include that PDD. So I think, Harry, what you're looking for is probably a motion for us that we agree with the town attorney's opinion that exactly. the PDD was deleted in the map amendment in 2015 and is no longer part of our zoning. Is that correct?
Exactly. Thank you very much. Well put.
Did everyone get that?
Yes.
Okay. So does anyone have any questions? Does someone want to make a motion then that we agree with the town attorney opinion that our 2015 map adoption as amended deleted the PDD and is no longer on our map, and it hasn't been since 2015? You get that? Someone say so moved.
So moved.
Motion by Fred. Is there a second?
Chadwick will second that.
Second by Joe Chadwick. Any further discussion? All in favor? Joe Chadwick.
Chadwick is in favor.
Fred Russo.
Fred Russo in favor.
Joe Vayuso.
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy.
I want to abstain because it's very confusing, but I'll vote in favor.
Okay. And chair's also in favor. So just cleaning things up. Anything else, Harry?
Just to go into planner's report, again, Harry Smith, town planner. I was asked by Peter Henschel, who's on the RTM, and also, I believe, the chair of the Coastal Vulnerability Working Group, which you maybe remember. They sent basically a report over to the commission through me and requested the commission members view it. I thought this was back in July. I went back and looked it up this afternoon. It was actually in May. I know, Fred, you did do it because you sent me affirmative email saying I viewed it.
Yes.
So I have that. Thank you. So Mr. Henschel is looking to see, did the other commissioners sort of make it through? It's sort of a gentle reminder. Could you take a look at it? And I think the idea was that once all the commissioners had looked at this, Mr. Henschel was hoping to have sort of a joint session and do a question and answer period just so they could talk about some of the things they've been discussing and trying to formulate policy about, and talk with the commission about its authority and what it could do, and see how it could be, some of those issues could be addressed partially by the commission at least. So this is just a gentle reminder, take a look at it. I will send it around again, assuming that it may have drifted back into the, way back burner of your inboxes. So you'll have it fresh in front of you again. So we'll do that tomorrow.
Okay, great. So you'll send that around to us. And then why don't you just get in touch with them and get some, see what you suggest, some dates or whatever. And
Yep.
I think once we have it, we will make sure to have looked at it before we ever schedule that date. I mean, that's what I would suggest.
Okay, I can do that. Sure.
Does that make sense, everyone?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else?
I think that's really it. I mean, we have a few other things coming in, but there's nothing outside of 175 Cherry Hill Road coming back, which did make it through wetlands. That has not hit our counter or our desk yet, but it should come in any time now.
Okay.
That's the only real major application I'm aware of at this point. We're just sort of spending a lot of time with, we had about at least 10 semi-major construction projects going from all the previous approvals. We did have a little event out at the project by MetroStar, out with a former Days Inn property. And I don't know if you've been out there, but I think you did a fantastic job with the landscaping, design, the building appearance. A lot of aspects of it are, frankly, it's just what I always envisioned a development could look like, in terms of all the details and little things we look at in the zoning regulations. And I think the Community Forest Commission actually gave him an award. There's a little write-up in the Sound. I went out there, and it's really, projects looking, I think very nice. So I encourage you to do that. The other thing I don't know if I should be doing this, but we don't go out and site visits. I did go out and look at this project that's subject to one of the public hearings. I don't know if the commission wants to do that also between now and November. So just a suggestion.
Okay, the Jefferson Woods one. Yeah, so I think we can go by individually.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So
We don't have to schedule one, but yeah.
yeah, so that's all I got.
Okay, great. Well, it'd be great if you could ever get Atlantic Wharf going. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, it's still in court. Hopefully that'll get resolved. We're hoping, soon.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Anything else from anyone?
Chuck, I want to say one thing. Fred Russo.
Yep.
Today is a miraculous day. We started an hour late. I'm going to finish 2 hours early.
Yeah, that ain't gonna happen too much. I think we got a number of things on for that.
Yom Kippur. It's going to be something.
Yeah. Okay.
Spoke too soon, Fred. You got to say that next week.
Yeah, right.
Okay, great. Anything else? Anyone?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Marcy makes the motion to adjourn. Is there a second? Joe Vayuso seconds it. So all in favor. Joe Chadwick, are you in favor of adjourning?
Chadwick in favor.
Fred.
Most definitely in favor.
Joe Vayuso.
Joe Vayuso in favor.
Marcy.
Marcy's in favor.
And Chair is also in favor. So good night, everyone.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night.
This program was brought to you in part through the support of the Town of Brantford. Watch town meetings and other videos on demand at BrantfordTV.org.